Pastor Tim here. Welcome to another episode of Bible Biker, Riding with the Word. In today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about Paul's second letter to Timothy, 2 Timothy chapter 4. And while we're discussing that, just enjoy this beautiful scenery on this beautiful river on this beautiful November day. It's not been this warm in November since I can remember. So I hope you all enjoy. 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 6 through 8, Paul writes the following: For I am now ready to be offered, and the time of my departure is at hand. I have fought the good fight, I have finished my course, I have kept the faith. Henceforth there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, shall give me at that day, and not to me only, but unto all of them also that love his appearing. So recently I covered this scripture at a dear friend of mine's funeral service just a couple weeks ago. And I read this scripture from the Apostle Paul during this friend's service because I think this friend would have wanted to convey that to the folks that were there to honor and celebrate his life at his funeral service. And what it is Paul is writing to Timothy late in his life, knowing that his time of death is pretty close. Many people believe, and early church history tells us that Paul was likely in prison in Rome during this time and he was about to be executed. And he knew his departure was at hand, as he says to Timothy, a young man who he was teaching to be a young leader and basically pastor in the church. And he was telling him, although my time is at hand, he's given Timothy comfort even though his death is coming, and telling him that although my death is at hand, it's a good thing because he says, I fought the good fight, meaning he's lived a good life and he believes his life has honored Christ. He's lived a life that honors and glorified God, and he tells him that the Lord has a crown of righteousness awaiting him, a place in heaven for him to live, and that he's going to be okay, better than okay. And he reminds Timothy that it's because of his trust and faith in Jesus Christ that his hope goes beyond death, beyond this life, and not to worry about him even though he is approaching death. And again, when I was doing my friend's funeral, this particular friend had a great testimony later in his life. He had a great battle with cancer, and I remember even coming to our church and sharing his testimony with how God was working with him through his cancer treatments and all the things that have been happening to him. And I remember him repeatedly saying that no matter what happens, whether he would pass from the cancer or whether God had 20, 30 plus more years for him on this earth, no matter what, he trusted that God was going to save him, whether it be continuing this life or beating cancer, or if he would perish from the cancer, God would still save him and had a place for him laid up in heaven for all eternity. And I love reading that scripture at his service because it gives comfort to those of us who are left behind, knowing that our dear loved ones had a faith and trust in Jesus Christ and that they will live on forever. Just as Paul is trying to convey to Timothy that no matter what happens to him in this life, not to worry. He's fought the good fight. He's lived a life to honor the sacrifice Jesus Christ made for him, and he knows where he's going. Paul is telling Timothy that, and it's important that we as Christians live a life that demonstrates that we have that same faith and trust in Jesus Christ. That when we depart this world, they'll know that we died in peace without fear or worry that death was the end for our lives. That we put our faith and trust in Jesus Christ. And just like Paul says, that all that believe in his appearing, referring to Jesus Christ, death, burial, and resurrection, will also be saved, will also be in heaven for all of eternity. So I hope you if you're a Christian, will live a life that glorifies God, that shows that no matter what life throws at you, no matter what trials or tribulations you go through, no matter what health issues you go through, even if they're as dire as certain cancers or other health ailments, that you show that you don't worry because you trust in Jesus, you trust in God, that He has saved your life. And it's my prayer that when I depart this world, that I'll leave behind a testimony, a legacy that showed I lived a life where I trusted in Jesus Christ, and that those that are left behind, those that love me, that I love, will know that I'm okay, alive and well in the kingdom of heaven, and that they too, if they haven't yet put their faith in Jesus Christ, that they would be compelled that maybe God had used my life or your life as a testimony to demonstrate His grace, His glory, His plan of salvation to them. So maybe our life can be a living example of God and God's work in the world, that they too may place their faith in Jesus Christ. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Bible Biker. As always, I'm going to leave you with some shots of beautiful scenery of this beautiful road, again on this gorgeous November day. I've never seen it this warm in November. So I want to thank you all for watching, and hope you enjoy these clips. God bless.